3 News Now this week.
TC Energy, formerly TransCanada, says they've recovered close to half of the 9,000 barrels of oil that were spilled from the Keystone Pipeline in northeast North Dakota. This as TC Energy tries to take land from Nebraska farmers and ranchers through eminent domain to build the Keystone XL pipeline. Within the last 2 months, the company has sued about 90 Nebraska landowners who have refused to sell their land to build the pipeline through the state. TC Energy has been granted permission to acquire the land through eminent domain, typically reserved for local governments.
I cannot put into words how devastating that decision was. Not that it's surprising. We've dealt with these characters for a long time.
Jeannie Crumley is one of the many landowners being taken to court by TC Energy. She spoke to me from her home in Holt County and says allowing the oil company to take her land through eminent domain had stripped her and others of any leverage.
This is not good for our family. It's not good for our county. It's not good for our state. It's not good for our citizenry. And so we're holding a line that really isn't just for us. It's for the good of our state.
Residents in a total of 10 counties along the approved route are being taken to court. Crumley says if eminent domain laws say your land can be taken because someone can make more money, it's dangerous for all citizens.
And if they can take my land because a corporate board in Canada wants to make some money, then they can take your land. That Walmart can do a parking lot across your land because they can make some money.
Last time I checked, a foreign corporation taking farmers and ranchers to court using eminent domain for their private gain is not the definition of a good neighbor.
I don't know if right and logic can win over greed and money.
Jake Wozakowski, 3 News Now.
For years now, Nebraska State Patrol has been using fingerprinting technology to identify those at traffic stops that refuse to give a name or try to use a fake identity.
We've also used it in fatality accidents to identify the victims.
Now the Bellevue Police Department is following suit. With 2 fingerprinting devices, the agency says this is more efficient.
If we couldn't identify somebody in the field, then we'd have to run them out to the jail, where a fingerprint scan could be done there.
The scanners are not used at every traffic stop, and the data is not stored or shared.
It's very well protected. We delete it as soon as we are done utilizing the Morphus. We delete it off our screen.
The data doesn't go anywhere. It's the same information we would obtain just from a driver's license.
The technology is pricey, around $2,500 for one scanner. But according to law enforcement, it's well worth it.
One subject had 3 felony warrants, and he wouldn't give us his name. We were able to take a guy with 3 serious warrants off the road.
Biggest benefit is mainly just time.
Bellevue PD would like to continue advancing their technology to help expedite traffic stop times and help the agency move away from paper.
We've been talking about getting license plate scanners where we can have a camera mounted on our vehicle which will scan license plates.
There is a state statute in place that requires all agencies that write more than 500 citations a year to do it all electronically by January 1st of 2020, transitioning all major agencies from paper to technology.
And we're well on the way to having that achieved.
Again, if you do have identification, it's not likely that you'll be fingerprinted at a traffic stop. We posted a poll on our 3 News Now Facebook page asking if you would be comfortable with having your prints taken. So far, over 60% have said no, just over 30 have said yes. And we want to know what you think. Go to our 3 News Now Facebook page to take our poll. Reporting live in Bellevue, Rudolph Sinaida, 3 News Now.
Climbing to the top of a mountain in Omaha. Yeah, that's not possible. This is a hill. But because mountains don't exist out here, doesn't mean the sport of mountain biking isn't popular. And behind it is a group trying to get more people on their bikes.
Let's be honest, you're definitely thinking it.
I know that most folks think that, in Nebraska, we don't have mountains, we don't have mountain biking.
It doesn't sound like it's possible because people don't see Nebraska as having mountains or being hilly.
But on the eastern side of the state,
I've been riding mountain bikes in Nebraska for 20 years now.
Mountain biking is definitely a thing.
There is almost 10 miles of single track trail just like this that winds through the hills and plains here at Tranquility Park.
Ryan Fagan has been on this trail many of times and says it's one of the best ones locally.
You get a lot of the same physical exercise as, say, riding your bike on a paved bike path, except in so many ways, this is so much more entertaining. Because the trail is going up and down and constantly turning, you're always engaged.
Thanks to those hills, there's plenty of trails to choose from beginner-friendly ones to other ones that are more challenging, not only in Nebraska, but on the other side of the river.
Within Omaha, within about an hour's drive of Omaha, there's probably, 6 or 7 trail systems, depending on whatever you're in the mood for.
Another challenge for local enthusiasts is growing the sport, which is trending in the right direction.
Being involved with the high school, middle school racing series, we're seeing a huge growth in that area in particular.
Multiple mountain bike races throughout the year are getting more and more people to try the sport. A sport you may not think about in Nebraska, but it's something that deserves a thought.
Having a sport where you can push yourself, build confidence, and no matter where you're at, no matter what level you're at, whether you've been doing it for 20 years or whether you've been doing it for 2 days, there's ways for you to get better and have a good time with your friends in the woods.
In Omaha, John Madden, 3 News Now.
From March of 2020, everyone over the age of 18 in the U.S. will be filling out the newest census survey.
It's very core to our democracy, but it's also very important for distributing federal funds.
The census helps determine how more than $675 billion are spent in state, county, and community programs.
It's everything from disaster relief to healthcare benefits and funding, so it really does touch almost everyone's lives in some way.
So why respond to these door knockers? Well, every 10 years, census data is used by state officials to redraw congressional and legislative districts based on population.
Districting still remains a really big issue.
But with all these people coming around, how'd you know who's safe and who's a scammer?
Number one issue is phishing scams by email.
The U.S. Census Bureau says census workers will never ask for your social security number, for your bank account or credit card, or for money. If someone asks for these, it might be a scam.
The census will never be asking you information through email or text. If you're receiving an email that's asking for any personal information, that's not the census.
And if someone comes to your home and knocks on your door, make sure they have a valid ID, photograph, and U.S. Department of Commerce watermark with an expiration date on it.
All census workers will be carrying a Census Bureau bag with the Census 2020 logo. They'll also have a Census Bureau laptop that they will be completing those questionnaires on.
And make sure, above all else, to not give away any pertinent financial information.
Financial information is not necessary to the census. It's not one of the questions that's being asked, so that's a big red flag.
Reporting in Omaha, Phil Bergman, 3 News Now.
Omaha doesn't have a ton of bike lanes, but I do ride in them often, and I do see people parked in bike lanes often.
It's a change Mark Vandrasek wants to see. Somebody who rides his bike often. He gets annoyed when his designated bike lanes are blocked.
It's usually just delivery people or people dropping somebody off at a location temporarily, but sometimes it is like a whole car parked out in the bike lane.
Now, Vandrasek says it's worse here along Leavenworth Street. Sometimes he has to veer into car traffic just to avoid getting into a crash.
You just got to swerve around, slow down a bit, make sure there's not a car. If you have to go out into the car lane with your bike, make sure you don't get hit by a bike or a car.
Councilmember Pete Festerson is working to make Omaha a more bike-friendly city, and was the one that proposed the ordinance change.
So having this simple clarification, which seems kind of self-evident, but just was nowhere in city code, we thought was important to do.
Right now, no parking signs are posted next to some, but not all bike lanes. This change would make those signs unnecessary and all the bike lanes uniform throughout town.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to put a sign up everywhere. So that just makes it clear, makes it apply everywhere to where those things have been designated already.
Festerson says he next is looking to connect the Keystone Trail to Lake Cunningham and would also like to see more lanes downtown. Something Vandrasek welcome.
There's a lot more that the city could do. Hopefully this means that they're getting ready to put more bike lanes down and that they're trying to get the code in line.
Reporting in Omaha, John Kipper, 3 News Now.
I got here because I actually had a drinking problem.
Joseph Burks was born and raised in Omaha and says he is living on the streets because of his addiction to alcohol. He adds rehab helped him for a few years, but he fell back into old habits.
I mean, that's the only reason why I'm still back here.
For him, along with hundreds across Omaha, services providing food and warmth in the winter are crucial. Starting December 2nd, the Salvation Army will be using these trucks to serve thousands of people across Omaha.
To have someone on the street who actually takes a moment to understand someone's life and to try to help them move along in that life.
It's the 32nd season of the Salvation Army's Night Watch program. Last year, they provided the homeless or those just a paycheck away from living on the streets with 16,000 meals and 12,000 pieces of clothing.
Sometimes we have social workers on there as well, because sometimes they have larger needs than just a meal, and we try to meet those as well.
They don't just offer resources. Burke says they also provide a place where those struggling or trying to get back on their feet can feel welcome.
They help you out, and they do not judge nobody, no matter what's going on. They do not. They do not judge you.
Again, the Night Watch will start December 2nd and go through February 28th. It's Monday through Friday, and they provide the service on 3 different routes. Live in the studio, Kent Lutzen, 3 News Now.
Yeah, our whistleblower says that since the assessor Debbie Churchill hired her daughter, an experienced appraiser left, replacing one with her son-in-law. Every year, homeowners pay a property tax. A county assessor measures and specs every 6 years, determining your home's value. It can affect how much in taxes you have to pony up. For a job this important, you want to have the best person. But in the Dodge County Assessor's Office, some say that's just not the case. Sources reached out to 3 News Now investigators concerned with the head assessor, Debbie Churchill, especially after she hired her own daughter.
It was a good work environment until she started, and then it just went downhill from then.
Coralie Cutros worked as an assessor's assistant for 2.5 years. She saw 3 experienced appraisers quit after Churchill hired her daughter, a nanny, and replaced the head appraiser with her son-in-law. We were told he has some appraiser experience in real estate. We asked for copies of both the daughter and son-in-law's resumes. We didn't get them. We reached out to both family members who refused to comment.
Nepotism, favoritism. I mean, it's making us like we're all trash, and why should we do anything? Because, you know, her family members get away with and can do what they want.
Sources claim Churchill gave the jobs to her family without posting the positions online. She claims both were posted for 2 weeks on Indeed.com, only getting one response for the head appraiser, who she says was unqualified. We obtained a form disclosing her son-in-law's hiring that says otherwise. In a written comment by Churchill, she claims she received no responses. It says, quote, "He was my best and only option." We asked for clarification, but she declined. Churchill also refused an on-camera interview, but told us she doesn't have proof of the post, saying, "Frankly, I've never had to prove to someone I did what I said I did. My word has always been good enough." Our investigative producer ran a test posting a job on Indeed to see if he would get some kind of notification, and he did, and that he couldn't find a way to even delete the post, only to archive it.
Nobody ever could find anything.
Debbie's son-in-law's starting pay is over $62,000 a year. He makes $2 more an hour than his predecessor, who only held the position for nearly 4 months.
In a way, you have a double nepotism in this case, and it's really unfortunate. I think most people would know right away that's wrong, and as taxpayers, as citizens, they're being hurt.
Gavin Geis is the executive director of Common Cause, a government watch organization.
Any candidate that's hired, even if it is family, is meeting certain standards. That they aren't just being hired because they're family, but they're hired because they're the best candidate available.
While this may seem unethical, it's perfectly legal. State law says if a family member is not in your immediate care or your spouse, it's okay. Otherwise, it would require a county board approval.
It's something that people inherently understand as wrong. It strikes them at the core of who they are that government positions, government resources, shouldn't be used to benefit an individual or their family.
After 3 News Now reached out to Churchill, Coralie says the office atmosphere turned hostile.
And she looked right at me and she says, "If the drama don't quit in this office, I will fire everyone in this office." And it's like, why are you threatening us to fire us?
Churchill gave the entire office documents to sign, including this agreement, demanding employees not to speak publicly or internally about wages after some of the staff, including Coralie, complained what Churchill's son-in-law is making. It places everyone on a 30-day probation period. It says things like, quote, I also understand due to certain drama caused in the past by wage discussions, there's a definite possibility any future raise may be withheld. Sign that or a resignation letter. Coralie decided not to sign either.
She goes, oh, I'm terminating you. And I go, well, why? And she goes, because you're unhappy. Oh, that's a good reason.
Before her firing, Coralie brought her concerns to the Dodge County Board of Supervisors. The response, Churchill can do what she wants.
I'm really not going to comment on that. As county board chair, the assessor is an elected official, and in this case governs the assessor's department's her jurisdiction.
And that's why Coralie and others are getting the story out. They see this as an abuse of a government position, a clear case of nepotism and favoritism. While legal, it doesn't sit right with them.
I mean, I think she just wants to make it a family thing and hire her family members, and then she can kind of run them how she wants, and no one will stand up to her.
It would take a change of states or local law to make it harder to hire family members. We spoke to State Senator Lynn Walls, who represents Dodge County. She promises to look into the law, saying, I do see a loophole in the law, and my staff and I are looking at legislation to remedy the situation. As for Coralie, she will enjoy some time off before searching for another job. Now, we also just learned Coralie might not be eligible for unemployment. Churchill says she was fired for being insubordinate, a claim Coralie has denied, and the state is investigating. And if you're interested in attending the Dodge County Board of Supervisors, that meeting is held tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., and Churchill might be there. Reporting live in the studio, Jeff Van Sant, 3 News Now.
As more states jump into the U.S. marijuana industry, the multi-billion-dollar business is sure to keep growing. Although a proven moneymaker, concerns surrounding the drug's health impacts are still being researched.
We're in the midst of a really profound cultural shift, and I think that's why there's so much interest.
Dr. Matthew Garlinghouse, a neurological sciences professor at the University of Nebraska Medicine Center, shared his thoughts on nearly all things marijuana to a group at the Omaha Science Cafe on Tuesday. Through his research, he says marijuana is beneficial for patients who struggle with severe pain and seizure disorders. On the flip side, he says the drug can cause increased anxiety, psychosis, and permanent changes to the brain of younger users.
It may normalize brain function in some ways, but at the same time, for non-affected groups like normal folks, when you go online, it cures everything. And unfortunately, that's not the case.
Those in the crowd were mainly from an older generation, many just trying to learn more about the pros and cons of the drug. Gary Hoffman was one. The nurse has holdups, but has seen the benefits for some people.
I've had to deal with a lot of seizure clients working for the state of Iowa. And, you know, I had to do emergency care to clients, and the cannabis is certainly an intervention that is meaningful. And people purport that, you know, it works and that it's effective.
Sherry Lawler wants medical marijuana legalized in the state of Nebraska and is working on a petition to get it on the ballot in 2020. Her daughter has epilepsy.
I just want her to have another medicine available to try and see if it will help her with her seizures.
As the legalization debate in the state of Nebraska continues, Garlinghouse says more research on the health impacts wouldn't hurt.
The society is now outpacing the science, and so it's the ultimate, I think, answer is still yet to be determined.
In Omaha, Kent Lutzen, 3 News Now.
It looks like Omaha is going electric. In the next couple years, the city is installing multiple electric vehicle charging stations.
We actually have some CMAQ funding and grant that's coming through, and we're going to be able to put about 40 EV charging stations into our facilities.
With 40 charging stations and a need for more vehicles,
so we were already in the looking at replacing one, and then we had a need for 2 more.
The city decided to purchase 3 electric vehicles instead of conventional gas-powered ones.
It's mainly going to be a commuting type vehicle right now to go from job sites or to project sites.
Parking and mobility manager Ken Smith says the electric vehicles will be more efficient when it comes to the stop and go of these cars on the roads and cost. The city of Bellevue has been using electric vehicles for about 3 or 4 years now. They say for the job they need to do, it's extremely efficient.
For going around the town to check on, permits and inspections and stuff like that, they've seemed to work pretty well for us.
For Bellevue to use these vehicles,
it's cheaper.
And now Omaha is following suit. The 2 Chevy Bolts and 1 Nissan Leaf should be out on the road soon. Reporting in Omaha, Rudolph Sinaida, 3 News Now.
It's not hard to see why this is called the Gold Coast neighborhood with its fall foliage and breathtaking homes. Some neighbors are worried that some of that charm could be taken away.
The Blackstone district, bustling with activity, isn't far from the Gold Coast neighborhood with an old world feel. Mark Macer has lived in his home for 10 years.
Just a block away, you're in basically a downtown area. But you come half a block towards the neighborhood, all of a sudden the tree canopies are covering the street, and you're in a residential neighborhood.
A planned development across the street has him wondering if the old world is going away. A high-end 15-unit condo complex is looking to be developed across the street. He says it will sit too close, unlike other homes.
Right next to the sidewalk.
And how tall is it going to be?
It's going to be 55 feet, 5.5 stories tall. We felt too modern for the neighborhood. And we weren't objecting to the fact that it was going to be developed so much as the look of it and the feel of it in this neighborhood.
Noddle Companies is developing the project. They're asking the planning department to discuss an overlay district. CEO Jay Noddle says they're making adjustments, but see a need for residential living near the urban core.
We've worked really hard to soften the west side of the building and put an emphasis on the landscaping. When you're out there walking your dog or pushing somebody in a stroller, we want it to look great.
Macer says their voices haven't been heard and the neighborhood agrees more changes need to be made.
The Noddle Company wants to build residences, and we think that's great. We're asking that what they build fits the neighborhood.
The city planning department will discuss the issue tomorrow at their meeting. You can imagine both the Noddle Company and neighbors will be there. If approved, it would go to the city council. Jay Noddle hopes to still meet with people in the neighborhood between now and then. Reporting from 38th and Dewey, Jake Wazakowski, 3 News Now.
I think our town will die. I really honestly think our town will die.
You can feel the anxiety in small town Scribner, Nebraska. A town of less than 900 people has long prided itself on its school, located on the northern edge of town. But its school board is moving to ditch it, or at least much of it.
I feel it's because of social reasons. There's no way it's because of education. We give a top-notch education here.
Superintendent Ginger Meyer says her school is small but mighty, leading the way in technology and offering students unique opportunities, maybe being the smallest school in the state with an esports team. But to some, that's not enough. Several school board members said at a meeting in August there are just more opportunities for their kids at larger districts. Only 45 students currently attend the high school, and they worry it's going to get worse. Others in the community are less concerned.
When we look at the lower grades, that is going to pass. There's the very high numbers in the lower grades. It's just a tough time right now, and things are going to get better.
A few miles down the road near Hooper, Superintendent Jeremy Klein says the ingredients for a successful partnership are there, and combining both districts could lead to students getting a better education.
More resources to support a quality education for the students in this area, probably also maybe some additional financial stability over the long term.
Now, over the last few years, the town has invested in the school, putting up new buildings like the one behind me. If the merger with Logan View does go through, it's unclear if these buildings will be used at all.
And we have some beautiful buildings that are very, very up to date. So we would hate to see that go to waste.
Lots of details need to be worked out. A school name, new colors, student transportation, plus questions with harder answers like timeline and what staff members get to stay on.
Of course, there is some concerns here in the buildings, and morale isn't as high as it usually is.
And even once those details are worked out, the big question remains, what will happen to Scribner? Some fear the worst.
And people aren't going to move here with small kids. nobody is going to move here.
Reporting in Scribner, John Kipper, 3 News Now.
This is Mike's boot camp photo from Paris Island.
Tiffany Bach says this wall serves as a daily reminder of her husband.
It may have ended short, but it's still, he did wonderful things in his life.
Tiffany and Michael Bach met in high school.
You know, you have that feeling when you meet somebody for the first time that you know if they're a good person or a bad person. And I'm very intuitive, and I could just sense that he was just an amazing person. And I don't know, I just kept getting drawn to him.
Before the start of his senior year, Staff Sergeant Michael Bach decided to enlist in the Marine Corps.
And then September 11th happened, like 2 months later, on his 18th birthday.
Tiffany tried to talk him out of it, but Michael's selflessness and sense of duty wouldn't allow it.
I just hope some of that courageousness passes on to our son Xander.
Even in his last moments, Michael's bravery is remembered, even receiving a Silver Star.
He was dodging bullets, he was dodging bombs, just to make sure that these got lit. He did it 3 times.
On Veterans Day, Springfield Platteview Community Schools will dedicate a space in the library in his honor. The area will include a bust of him, as well as information on the life he lived.
I'm not always going to be here. Xander's not always going to be here. You know, that building will probably be around a lot longer after, we're all gone. Someone will look at it and think of him.
Tiffany doesn't need a building or a wall to remember her husband.
Just amazing knowing he's that courageous.
But like this wall inside her home, it comforts her knowing what he did will never be forgotten.
100 years from now, hopefully someone will see that sign and just, think about, this person, they died for our freedom.
On Tuesday afternoon, residents in Council Bluffs made their way to the polls to place their vote.
It's always important to vote.
It's our duty to vote.
The time is now.
With Election Day in the rearview window, all eyes across the nation now turn to Iowa as top Democratic candidates stump the Hawkeye state.
Iowa isn't famous for a lot of stuff, and it just kind of sets us out, ahead of everybody else.
Since 1976, the presidential primary seasons kicked off in Iowa.
I think it's a pretty great honor that we do get to, be the first in the nation.
I'm not sure the people of Iowa really appreciate it that much, but nationwide it seems to set a trend in some cases.
In 2016, Iowa Democrats picked Hillary Clinton. In 2012 and 2008, Barack Obama. In fact, the Iowa Democratic Caucus has correctly picked the party's nominee since 1996.
I think that Iowans are pretty smart. I think they understand a lot of problems, and I think it's good for us to kind of set the pace.
And it might surprise you, but the Iowa election commissions have nothing to do with the caucuses. They are run by its own political parties, so expect to go to a different place than you do to vote.
After the caucus, they bring us all the voter registrations, absentee requests, and who is on the convention.
Caucusing is 89 days away. For those on the fence, there's still a little time to decide.
They got their future ahead of them.
Yeah.
So they better be at the polls.
I would say just get out and caucus. It's a cool experience.
Reporting in Iowa, Phil Bergman, 3 News Now.
Movie money. It's a great tool for major motion pictures.
When you see the typical throwing the money up in the air and it falls down, this is the money that they use.
But not so much for real life. On Wednesday, the La Vista Police Department sent out a warning on social media of someone using prop money on trade sale websites.
The warning on this money, while very small, it does tell you that it's not legal money.
This particular incident happened when an individual was selling some items on Facebook Marketplace. He found a buyer that was interested in some items. Then the two met up at the La Vista neighborhood Walmart parking lot for the exchange. Nothing out of the ordinary until the seller inspected the money later in the day. Fake.
It was approximately $500.
Prop money is legal to buy.
I did a Google search and found multiple different websites with multiple different types of prop money.
But not legal to use for transactions. Police say this becomes more and more common as the holiday season approaches.
We see counterfeit money around the holidays, and then we also see counterfeit money when it comes to these online sales.
If you're going to buy or sell on these types of trading websites, there are some tips police want you to know. Make sure to meet in a public place for the exchange. Meet in the daytime when there's still light out. For the particular incident in La Vista, the buyer didn't have a license plate on the car, so make sure you're asking for the identity of the person that you're trading with. And finally, inspect the money and the product for fishy labels before leaving the transaction.
So just be careful and, be safe.
La Vista police need your help identifying the individual who provided the movie money at the Walmart on 96 and Giles earlier today. The younger black male was driving a violet-colored minivan with no rims. Again, there was no license plate on the vehicle, but if anyone has any information, call La Vista Police. Reporting live in studio, Rudolph Snyder, 3 News Now.
Main Ultra Lounge on North 30th Street near the Mormon Bridge has had its share of problems over the past few years. There have been 6 tavern reports of fights, stabbings, and a 2018 murder. The Nebraska Liquor Control Commission approves a motion to have them refile a liquor license application, meaning they'll have to tell the commission why they deserve a new license and not be automatically renewed. The commission agreed with the Omaha City Council's recommendation and felt the tavern and police reports made it necessary.
Our job is not to try and put people out of business, but try and help them get back into compliance so that they can run a good business and keep the people employed that they have.
Owner James Overton told the commission he's had a problem with not enough parking for all the patrons so they can be noisy in the area. There have been about 100 calls to 911 for rain since May 2017, and they've been in front of the LCC twice for disturbances. Overton says it's a commercial area, but neighbors are calling about loud noise, not because of fights.
I did everything I could, actually. It's things like that, but then the city of Omaha comes back to me and says that I'm actually being irresponsible. How? By not actually making sure that I take care of these issues and make sure that nothing happened, but even still, I got a tavern report for that.
The commission also suspended Rain's license for 5 days because they didn't pay an alcohol distributor for months. Overton feels he's being treated unfairly when it comes to the police being called.
And it's kind of like I got a bullseye on the back of my head when it comes to the actual city of Omaha right now.
So Rain will have the option to pay the fine or take the 5-day suspension. Plus, they'll receive a letter in the mail and have 30 days from that point to file another long-form liquor license application. Reporting in Lincoln, Jake Wazakowski, 3 News Now.
That's my focus. There are other folks in judiciary and intelligence doing their job. I'm doing mine, and when the time comes for me to take a vote and I have the information, then I'll make that decision then.
The town hall Wednesday morning, the word impeachment was brought up once. That's while Axne was telling the dozens in attendance that she's been focused on issues that Iowans care about.
That's why I dropped an agriculture bill the day that the impeachment inquiry was announced.
Still, she said after the town hall that she'll be listening to the public impeachment hearings carefully. But she believes President Trump and his administration has already admitted to some wrongdoing.
So we have a president who not only asked a foreign entity to get dirt on his opponent, but then he basically held out military funding that was appropriated by Congress as a threat. Those acts are impeachable. I mean, it was quid pro quo.
Axne's Republican colleagues, whose districts sit right next to hers, voted to not open the impeachment inquiry at all. Nebraska Congressman Don Bacon said last week the process so far has been hyper-partisan and unfair to Trump, saying hatred of the president alone is not grounds for impeachment. Our citizens will decide who our next president will be in 13 months, and we should trust the voters to decide and respect their will. Iowa Rep. Steve King called the process a sham, saying President Trump is correct to describe this as a witch hunt, and the president's phrase takes on added significance with the actions of the Democrats in the House. Axne trusts the process and will wait to see what charges are brought to the House floor.
The number one job that I have outside of representing my district is to protect our country. And so we've got to have all the information that we can get to ensure that our elections aren't tampered with, because only Americans should be influencing who wins.
The House will head back to D.C. next Tuesday, and a few days later is when the public hearings on impeachment will begin. Reporting in the studio, John Kipper, 3 News Now.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie?
Oi, oi, oi.
Hey, there we go. What is your favorite Australian animal?
Kangaroo.
Not the koala bear?
No, not the koala bear. I mean, I guess it kind of resembles me, just like to chill out, lay in bed, not do much, They sleep about 19 hours a day or something like that, so.
Would you like to sleep 19 hours a day?
I wouldn't mind that some days, yeah.
Why a kangaroo? Do you have hops like a kangaroo?
I think so, yeah.
Stereotype about Australia that people have wrong.
Throw another shrimp on the barbie.
That's not a thing?
No, just people say it all the time. Throw another shrimp on the barbie. Australians don't like it. I never really cared for it, but I'd see like my neighbors and stuff, they'd have a sticker that says throw another steak on the barbie, and they cross out the shrimp and like the bumper sticker or something like that.
Do you like Vegemite? A good Vegemite sandwich?
Yes, I do. I try to get Americans to eat it, but they don't want it.
What is Vegemite?
It's like a yeast extract. It's like quite a bitter taste.
And it's good?
I like it, yeah. It's better on toast.
It's better on toast?
Yeah, I've seen a movie with some girl and it was eating it out of a jar. It's disgusting.
You went to La Lumiere Academy. Yes. Is that your favorite Disney character, Lumiere from Beauty and the Beast?
I can say I never really watched that as a kid. My sisters watched it all the time.
What was your favorite Disney movie as a kid?
Nemo was a good one.
With your accent, can you do the turtle?
Couldn't even remember what he said. He's like, "What's up, dudes?"
Why the number 41?
Dirk Nowitzki.
Dirk?
Yeah.
You a big Dirk guy?
Yeah, I was growing up. He was a big man that could shoot, and I always saw myself as that.
What's your nickname that people have for you?
Snake. Jake the Snake.
Jake the Snake?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
I don't care.
Hey Jacob, thanks so much for joining me. This was?
Fill in the blank.
How's that? Good.
Good?
Yep.
They say it's as easy as riding a bike, maybe even easier.
Push forward.
The scooter company Lime hosted its first ride event in Omaha on Thursday. People had the chance to hop on the scooters for free and learn the rules of the road.
Tells you where to ride, always on the street, never on the sidewalk.
Lime and Spin scooters are relatively new to the area. They've been in Omaha for about 6 months now.
I would say about probably 90% of us had never rode an electric scooter until they came.
And Lime representatives say they've been happy serving the people of Omaha.
It's been great. We've seen a lot of ridership, especially with the College World Series.
But they know that the scooters have been involved in debate. You either love them or you hate them.
And obviously, I think the people who haven't enjoyed them, it's just a matter of proper etiquette with parking, and then obviously making sure that people are riding them appropriately.
One of the issues has been underage driving, which mid-pilot the companies noticed and started making sure people scanned their IDs.
Do you have your ID by chance?
Legally, you have to be 18 with Lime to ride.
Other concerns have been scooters on sidewalks and being in areas they're not supposed to be in. After debate and discussion, it's now up to City Council to review the pilot program and make a decision on the future of scooters in Omaha.
I think it's great. I think as long as we have the proper regulations, these can go really far with Omaha.
Council members are expected to start talking about the topic of scooters next week. We'll be sure to update you on the decision as more details become available. Reporting live in studio, Rudolph Sinaida, 3 News Now.
Holy Name Church and Catholic School, a staple in this North Omaha neighborhood for over 100 years.
Today we stand here ready to put the additional work into assuring this school and this parish has the opportunity to celebrate its next 100 years.
And to that, the school has big plans, but needs community help. Thursday morning, Governor Pete Ricketts and others announced the launch of 2 funding campaigns. The school is looking for over $3 million to renovate their field house. That would be used for more than just school kids.
It'll be for a combination of school events and community events. Going to, increase the profile and the ability for Holy Name to attract the community to its campus.
They're also looking for over $12 million to help run the school, about half of which has already been donated. This would cover things like teacher salaries, school books, and keeping the lights on.
But in order to fund these schools, we have to find all sort of alternative sources of funding. Tuition isn't enough just to keep them open.
Other schools in the area have learned this the hard way. In Lincoln, 2 K through 8th grade Catholic schools shut down due to financial issues.
Over the years, inner city Catholic schools have really struggled to be able to make ends meet. And so it requires members of the community to be able to get involved and help make them successful.
The school isn't just for Catholics either. Almost half the students are outside the faith, and most of them qualify for free or reduced lunch. Governor Ricketts says that's all the more reason why he hopes the community members step up so kids can continue to go to Holy Name for a long time.
97% of the kids who go here graduate from high school. And so they get a great education, They get really a great background in values that help to make them successful. And so it's really an anchor of the neighborhood, and so it really draws a diverse group of kids that come here.
Reporting in Omaha, John Kipper, 3 News Now.
This is one, I just use the ones that they have at the club.
Two friends sitting around sharing memories.
Oh, that part I loved. I remember every moment of that.
They're also nurse and patient.
The reality is, yeah, you know, I'm sucking up blood and platelets like you wouldn't believe.
He's had 6 rounds of chemo for blood cancer. You wouldn't fault Ray Jolly for not embodying his name, but he does.
You got to live the part. You got to be the part. You got to be jolly.
Methodist Estabrook Cancer Center nurse Abby Lacey, an avid skydiving adventure seeker, became fast friends with Ray.
I think just his positive attitude and adventurous spirit, like that's generally how I tend to be as well.
But even a free-spirited, jolly guy can have a rough week.
You think the blood's holding up, and then the cancer eats up the blood, the white cells, and then I had to come back. I was getting just bagged up for the whole week.
And I was kind of down that he was down because it's not typical, you know, it's not typical for him to have kind of a bum attitude. And so I was like, what can I do? And then it was like, I was just sitting at my desk and light bulb. I know exactly what I can do.
Abby called up her friends with Lincoln Sport Parachute and said, let's make it happen. Abby has jumped more than 20 times. This day, though, she stayed in the plane. This day was for Ray.
Well, I'm dying. And then I figured, whoa, what a blast it would be to jump out of a plane and not die of cancer. After talking to her, I was calm about everything. It was just great. I had no fear, it was just the best feeling in the world. The weirdest part was when he pulled the chute, and then you go way up. And that was like, God, I'd love to do that all the time. That's a cool feeling, you know? And then it's nice and slow coming down. The scenery's beautiful.
How you feeling?
Alive. What was you? You're more alive.
He's been feeding off that feeling for weeks, telling everyone he wants to go again.
But you definitely made my life better. I'll tell you that. You know that, because I tell you enough.
The full job of a nurse isn't taught in a textbook.
The good is, I'm gonna get emotional. The good is really good. The bad's bad. So, nope, you definitely take it home, for sure.
What's your hope for him?
Stay positive, keep having fun.
We can't always control the lows life hands us.
It's just that hope and faith you hold on to. And then you got people like Ab, you know, that said, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Here's another bag, you know.
It's also never too late to appreciate the highs. When asked what kind of difference Abby has made in his life, Ray told me she's in his will. He was also quick to tell me how important his wife has been since his diagnosis about a year ago. We wish him the very best.
On Thursday, Omaha elementary school students took over Baxter Arena.
We have about 1,600 kids here today, 16 different schools around the metro area.
Today, classes on the court.
They love it. They bring a sack lunch, they come out, enjoy a fun day.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of these kids wouldn't have an opportunity to come to a game otherwise.
Kavea Washington is a 4th grader at Minnelusa Elementary.
I like seeing people like bounce a ball and having fun.
Willie Tomczykowski is a few sections over, studying every move on the court.
I think that just everybody thinks it's awesome. People who play basketball or not.
Learning comes in all forms. The game's a showcase of what college life can be like outside of the classroom.
I think it's inspiring for them because they don't have a lot of experience with what college is like because a lot of their families never went to college. And so I think it's a good introduction that it's not always just about the academics. There's also a lot of community and support for one another.
It's fun and it makes me want to go to college.
It definitely influences me more to want to go to college because of how cool it is.
And a great recruiting tool for the hometown university.
Do you think you want to go to UNO one day?
Yes, definitely.
Reporting in Omaha, Bill Bergman, 3 News Now.
If you're looking for some world champion barbecue, you don't need to travel to Kansas City. Right here in Omaha near 156 and Maple, Porky Butts Barbecue will leave you lost in the sauce. The Midwest is known for its barbecue.
All right, just waiting on a fry here.
At Porky Butts Barbecue in Omaha, you'll get some of the best, and they've got the awards to prove it. This one's bigger than I am almost.
Yeah, that's what my son said when we won it. So this is when we won the 2017 American Royal Open. That's the largest barbecue contest in the world. It's the World Series of Barbecue. It's the Big Daddy. My goal was to be top 25 in the country one time, and we won it, and it was pretty overwhelming.
Awesome.
Yeah, it just kind of all clicked at once.
After a few years of barbecue competitions, Blaine Hunter is now serving his world champion brisket and barbecue in his own kitchen. So what all do you offer as far as meats go?
So we have traditional, we have brisket, burn-ins, we have turkey, we have ribs, we have smoked chicken wings, which are pretty darn good. Pulled pork.
The barbecue hotspot serves nearly 100 racks of ribs on the weekends.
So you can see all our rub and how the bark's kind of starting to set up as it dries out, and then you can see our perfect smoke ring and then the moisture. We're gonna give you the same brisket that we made for the American Royal.
It's like Christmas morning, but not.
Yeah.
It's easy to taste why his barbecue is so popular. Incredible. Right off the bone.
Yeah. Nice and moist.
That sauce is really great.
Yeah, it's real sweet.
It's sweet, meaty, and again, very just tender.
That's how we like it. Tender and juicy.
I want barbecue all over my face.
That's where it should be.
Do you have any napkins?
No, you gotta go around the rest of the day like
I
that.
need napkins. My mom will yell at me. Ribs are my personal favorite, but here you can get quality brisket, salads, an assortment of sides, tacos, and sandwiches like the Tank, which consist of smoked brisket, jalapeno sausage, cheddar cheese sauce, all between jalapeno cornbread. As for prices, all of their shareable items are under $10, and their sandwiches and their meat plates are between $11 and $16.
We do use a premium brisket, a premium pork, so we charge a little bit more than the average barbecue, but I think it's fair.
I feel like a queen.
All this for you?
No, I have reinforcement coming.
Well, you better.
Yeah,
it's a lot of meat.
Big guys, it is a lot of meat. Now, to help me taste all of these delicious foods, I brought in the experts, the protein enthusiasts, aka my gym coaches.
You mind passing me a napkin?
Yeah, can I get like
Oh, come on. Who uses napkins?
It's barbecue.
That's why you have your shirt.
What do you think about it, Jay?
I will.
Oh my gosh.
I will say we had to add tomatillos.
This is really good.
Are those not good ribs or what?
I thought like high B's ribs were good. But this is like, this is. I have a feeling my life has changed.
You know what's crazy though, honestly? I've been to, so I'm not from here, you know what I mean? I heard a lot about Midwest barbecue. And I tried some ribs down in KC. Because ribs are my favorite. And honestly, I was just like, wow, maybe KC is just a lot different, and the barbecue is just different than I'm used to. This is what I'm used to. This is good stuff.
These are so good.
Aren't they? Like, and
Oh
look how
my
easily
gosh.
they come off the bone.
I'm not even kidding. These are amazing.
You don't even give those to your dogs. You give those to me.
Man, this is some of the best barbecue I've ever had. It was really good.
Yeah.
The Tank was really good. And the brisket was amazing.
All of it was finger licking good.
I promise, not trying to just butter you up, but I've never had good brisket. And that was good brisket.
Well, wait till
it was just like the rib. I mean, falls off, melts in your mouth, good flavor, and I will definitely be back here. This is seriously the best barbecue I've had in the Midwest.
So you guys recommend?
Oh, 100%.
Oh yeah,
100%.
2 thumbs
way up. 2 thumbs up?
2 thumbs way up.
See you tomorrow.
Does that mean less burpees for me because I brought you here?
Oh yeah. Get the MSD for a week.
Yeah! Well, for the record, they still made me do burpees and after barbecue, so you can only imagine how pretty of a sight that was. Well, if you want to check out Porky Butts Barbecue, you can find it near 156 and West Maple Road. It's open every day except for Mondays, and those hours are on your screen. There are 17 Democratic presidential candidates still in the race for the 2020 nomination. Now, one of those is Colorado Senator Michael Bennet. Former presidential candidate and Colorado Senator Gary Hart just recently called Bennet the dark horse and to place your bets on him. Now, Senator Michael Bennet is in town. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. What brings you to the area?
Well, I'm going to spend the next few days in western Iowa, so that's why I'm here today, and it's very nice to see you again.
Likewise. Well, thanks for joining us. First off, why are you running?
I'm running because I'm really worried that my generation is going to be the first generation of Americans to leave less opportunity, not more, to the kids coming after us, and I don't think we have to do that. We got to straighten out our politics in Washington, D.C., create a constituency out here in the country that demands change for our kids and for our grandkids and for America's place in the world.
Mr. Bennet, what do you think was the Democratic Party's biggest mistake when it came to the 2016 election against President Trump?
I think we were careless with our democracy. We allowed him to make a bunch of economic arguments and other arguments that weren't true, and the truth never caught up to him during the course of the campaign. We can't allow that ever to happen again.
You know, and right now you're low on the polls. What makes you think that, or what are you going to do in the next few months to get those numbers up and to hopefully win?
Yeah, I'm not obviously the best known candidate, and I understood that when I got into the race. It's hard work, and you just got to go out and do it, and that's why we're in western Iowa. In the next couple of days, we've spent, I think, as much time or more in Iowa than any of the other candidates. We're spending time in New Hampshire as well. And it's a real privilege to get the chance to meet people. I believe this race is wide open, and I think the polls show that as well. There's a lot of opportunity between now and when people start to vote in February.
You know, and like you mentioned, in New Hampshire, a lot of other candidates are pulling out resources out of that state while you're investing more in there. Why do you see that as such an important part of your campaign?
I see both Iowa and New Hampshire as a really important way of getting started here. They're the two early states, and I'm glad to be able to invest a few more resources in New Hampshire. We've got a great team in Iowa all across the state, registering people and getting them ready for the caucuses in February, and so we're going to compete in both places.
You know, and Mr. Bennet, you know, many would say that you have some moderate views, a lot more than, for example, Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. Do you think that will help you become the next president of the United States?
I do. I'm the only person in this race who's actually won 2 national elections in a purple state. Colorado, which is your neighbor, is exactly a third Democratic, a third Republican, and a third independent. And that's what I think we need to beat Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump, it's not just about unifying the Democratic Party. We have to do that. But 9 million people voted twice for Barack Obama and once for Donald Trump. And we got to get some of those people back. And I think the experience of running in a purple state will serve me well in this election.
You know, and with healthcare, you believe there should be a public option while still keeping private health insurance in effect. Why do you think that plan would benefit Americans as opposed to Medicaid for all?
Yeah, I think that's just what Americans want. They'd like to have a choice for their families. If they have private insurance that they like, keep your private insurance. But if you want something else, we'll have a public option administered by Medicare that you can buy just like any other health insurance. The Medicare for All plan cancels all private insurance except for cosmetic insurance, and it raises taxes by $31 trillion on the American people. I don't think that will fly with Democrats, much less independents or Republicans.
You know, and while on the campaign trail, you get to speak to thousands of people about everything, essentially. What are some of the things that you're hearing that they want, that they need, that they want to see changed? What are you hearing?
It's such a great question, because I think that's what we need to focus on. What I'm hearing is people saying, Michael, we are working really hard, and we can't afford some combination of housing, healthcare, higher education, and early childhood education. In other words, we can't afford a middle-class life. We can't save for the next generation. We're worried that the next generation is going to live a less generous life than our generation lived. And, you know, in my old school district, I used to be superintendent of the Denver Public Schools. It's one of the largest districts in this area, 95,000 kids, most of whom are kids of color living in poverty. And what their parents would say if they came to my town halls, which they don't because they're working 2 and 3 jobs, they'd say, Michael, we're killing ourselves. We're working so hard, But we can't, no matter what we do, we can't get our kids out of poverty. And that's a reflection, what I'm hearing on the campaign trail and what I would have heard in Denver, that's a reflection of an economy that for 50 years has benefited only the people at the very top of the economic food chain. And for 9 out of 10 Americans, it's meant they haven't really had a pay raise. And we got to change that. Washington's got to be focused on solving that issue, because if you've got the kind of income inequality that we have, which is the largest income inequality that we've had since the 1920s, that's a threat to our democracy. So we've got to address it.
And I know you're big on education, like you said, superintendent of Denver Public Schools. You've talked about increasing the funding for school districts and for teacher salaries. How do you plan on doing that?
Well, we can reverse the Trump tax cuts. That would be a good way of doing that. We have cut taxes in this country by $5 trillion since 2001. Almost all the benefit of that has gone to the wealthiest people in America. I don't understand why we would borrow $5 trillion from the Chinese to do that. We've got to reverse those things, and we've got to invest in the next generation again. We've cut our investment in education at the national level by 35%, and I think we can restore some of that.
And where do you stand on the impeachment on Donald Trump right now?
I believe that it's proper that they started an impeachment inquiry in the House of Representatives. I mean, he really forced their hand, because what he admitted to doing was asking a foreign leader to intervene in our elections. No president should ever have done something like that. And now we're hearing all kinds of testimony the last couple of weeks that confirms what he did, and that there was in fact a quid pro quo. And so I'm very worried about it, disturbed by it, as with so many things this president does. You know, if anybody at this station had spent the last weekend tweeting out the stuff that President Trump tweeted out last weekend, just last weekend, the HR department here would have sat down with them on Monday and said, if you keep doing that, you're going to be fired. And if their answer to that was, I'm a stable genius, or I have unmatched wisdom, which are the things that Donald Trump has said, their box would be filled with their stuff by the end of the day. And by the way, while he was tweeting all that stuff out, and while some people thought it was funny and other people were disturbed by it, while all that was happening, the Iranians were doubling the number of centrifuges they're spinning to develop nuclear weapon capability. And the Chinese were cutting a trade deal with half of the world's economies while we weren't even present at the negotiation. This is the kind of lost cause of having a reality TV star as president. I realize some people think that Washington's so broken that that was the right answer. I'm telling you, matters have gotten a lot worse, and if we are not going to be the first generation to leave less opportunity to our kids and our grandkids, we really need him to be a one-term president.
Now, how do you think that there are so many, again, people that are running from the Democratic side? Do you think that a Democrat could beat President Trump in this round?
I do. I think that his record is so far outside the mainstream of conventional American political thought. I think his promises that he made, from health care to the deficit that during the last election, turned out to be untrue. He didn't keep any of them. So I think that makes him very vulnerable. But if Democrats nominate somebody who is outside of the mainstream of conventional American political thought, that will make it more challenging. I think coming from Colorado, I'm presenting an agenda that can unify the country, and I believe beat Donald Trump.
Now, again, you're on the campaign trail. On a little lighter note, I'm sure you're running around, don't have time for a home-cooked meal all the time. What is your go-to either food or snack during the trail?
Well, we had a pretty good time at the Iowa State Fair, and we ate almost every single. My kids came and my wife came. We ate almost every single thing. I think that they had some apple-filled egg rolls there that were pretty unbelievable.
That's your go-to.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to eat them more than once a year, though.
I bet. And lastly, who do you think will win the Super Bowl this year?
The Denver Broncos. Who else?
Well, good answer there. Well, if you want to find out more about Senator Bennett's stands on issues, you can go to his website, michaelbennet.com, or any social media platform. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
You too.
Thank you.
For much of the year, residents in this neighborhood that is near Zorinsky Lake relish in the beauty of these trees from their own backyard. But by next spring, many of them will be cut down.
It just seems to be an awfully broad solution to a minor problem.
Beginning in the next few weeks, work will begin to knock down trees from the fence line to create a 30-foot buffer zone all the way around Zorinsky. About 20% will be cut down by March, and many homeowners aren't happy.
I think doing anything cookie cutter style because it's efficient and convenient is a mistake.
We haven't really got a clear definition of what the program is and why they're doing this.
This is a federal asset for all the public to use.
David Subchek with the Army Corps of Engineers says it's a necessary solution. He says national guidelines require them to define their boundaries and make sure no homeowners take over federal land.
There were several hundred encroachments, and they're minor right now. We want to keep them minor. We don't want them to turn into larger, more impactful encroachments that would impair the dam's ability to perform.
And Subchek says if there's enough encroachments, it could lead to a flood, something Zorinsky was made to stop.
Pretty unlikely that those kind of cases will occur on a very frequent basis, but if they do, you know, it could have some life safety implications.
3 homeowners who we spoke with say they've never seen any encroachments. They are worried about what will happen to the wildlife. Deer, squirrels, hawks, and falcons all frequent the wooded area, and the Bauermeister Prairie next to it.
We treasure the prairie and the trees.
The project will take anywhere from 2 to 4 years and cost over $1 million. Eric Watts wonders if there's a cheaper solution.
Like me for this, but I wish they would just say, hey, homeowners, you have until a certain day, a very early date, to get rid of all these encroachments.
Subchek isn't sure that would save money in the long run.
It's really not much of an option because we have to have a boundary program. Otherwise, these encroachments will continue to grow and they could become impactful.
He also says this isn't something that the Corps can really take public input on, something the homeowners know.
It is their land, and if that's what they want to do, that's what they're going to do.
In Omaha, John Kipper, 3 News Now.
Good evening, I'm Kent Lutzen in for Jennifer Griswold. Just under 3 months to go to the Iowa caucuses and the 2020 election just 11 months away. Presidential hopefuls are already turning to star power to sway voters. New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez joined Sanders in Council Bluffs tonight. That's where reporter Ruta Olsinaida is live. She has more on Sanders' message to supporters in Southwest Iowa.
Presidential hopefuls like Senator Bernie Sanders are campaigning around the state of Iowa, trying to rally support before the 2020 Iowa caucuses set for February 3rd.
Thank you all for being part of a political revolution.
Senator Bernie Sanders kicked off his tour of Iowa on Friday. Joining him on his tour is Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who announced her endorsement for Sanders just a few weeks ago.
Who has helped created the space along shoulder to shoulder with each and every one of us to be here today, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Supporters packed into Reaver Arena to hear from both Sanders and Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. AOC said she is excited to be in the Midwest.
This is my first time in my life in Iowa.
She'll be joining Sanders for the remainder of the tour. Sanders recently suffered a heart attack. Many questioned if he was healthy enough to continue his presidential campaign. His supporters in Iowa have no doubt that he can.
That's not even a question.
Bernie spoke intensively on things like the Green New Deal, affordable housing, and health care.
You tell me how every other major country on earth has managed to provide health care to all people at a fraction of the cost. Please don't tell me we can't do that in the United States.
Senator Sanders will be in Des Moines and Coralville in the coming weeks, as all politicians are aware of the importance of a presence in Iowa before the caucus.
But the deal is that Iowa, you're the first in the nation, baby.
Whether you live in Iowa, Nebraska, or wherever you live, we are in this together.
Bernie Sanders and AOC's next stop is in Des Moines, Iowa. This Saturday, they will hold a climate rally. We'll have more on that rally and other rallies happening around the state on our website at 3newsnow.com. For now, reporting in Council Bluffs, Ruta Olsinaida, 3 News Now.
Stay connected at 3newsnow.com.